Hi everybody, it's Romania Black, and I'm very excited today because we are finally diving into Volume 3 of Thousand Autumns! And what that means is that we are very, very, very close to not having content that has already been covered by the donghua and to be getting into brand new material. And when I tell you I have been waiting a very long time to get to this, I've been waiting like 13 weeks. So I've basically been, 3 months into reading the novel, and I've been like, okay, we're getting to that point, and I'm really, really excited. So hopefully you all are as well. Hopefully people have been waiting to get into the not donghua content so we can see what new goodies are in store. So I'm not reading the back cover because spoilers, obviously. But this novel volume is heftier. Heftier than volume 2. There is more content in this one. I don't know if this is the biggest volume out of all of them. It's certainly bigger than volume 4. Volume 4 is like tiny in comparison. I really think they could have split volume 4 between volumes 3 and 5, but whatever. Not my business, not my publishing company, but I do feel like this is a pretty hefty volume. And I wouldn't have changed anything about volume 2. I think it ends off at the perfect spot where Shen Qiao is like, I'm gonna go prove Yan Wushi wrong. I'm gonna go save his ass and then show him how little effect he had on me. Like get it, Shen Qiao, get it, my dude. So thank you all so much for the comments on Volume 2. The last several weeks with Volume 2 have been so much fun, and they've really kind of invigorated me with the series and gotten me really excited about this volume, and we're already off to a good start because this cover, that's a pretty damn good looking horse. And these two guys look great too, although Yan Wushi looks a little worse for wear. We're going to talk about that. So real quick, we're going to talk about the cover here in a moment, but thank you so much to everybody who has supported me through Patreon, through YouTube. I appreciate all of you. I looked through my analytics and they're like, Thousand Autumns is not, it's like the least tracked series. And I'm like, I don't understand because it's so good. I wish more people would get into it because it's really a good story. I don't know other people that are reacting to this series. There needs to be people reacting to this series. So hopefully some people will get into it, but anyway, so we're going to be diving into Volume 3. I've got Volume 3 split out with the audio drama episodes. Audio drama episode 13 is going to go along with this segment today. This chapter set is not as long as the other ones in the novel. I went through, I'm a hyper organizer, hashtag teacher, and I tried to organize where the chapter sets corresponded with the audio drama episodes the best that they could. This first audio drama set, though, is pretty short. It's only pages 12 through 39. So, I mean, it's still about, 20-something pages, but we're used to doing like 40 pages. So this may be a shorter video than usual. Or maybe not. There could be a ton of information in this chapter we need to talk about, but it corresponded the best with audio drama volume episode 13. And then from there, we're going to kind of go, and the chapter sets will get a little bit longer from there. But I'm trying to also conserve my voice because I think the biggest thing I did in volume 2 was I read these giant sections and my voice was really strained along with the other 10 shows a week I do on this channel. I'm talking like 20 hours a week just straight, which is crazy. So I've got to keep my voice as good as it can be. But anyway, so that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at chapters 53, and it's chapters 53, 54, and 55. So it is 3 chapters. They're just shorter chapters than usual, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what we're going to get. But thank you all so much for watching alongside me. Thank you to Be Happy, the moderator, for keeping me chugging along and checking comments. I really appreciate it, but we're going to get started and see what we get, y'all. And also thanks to Reiki for getting me this digital copy of this book. I'm super appreciative. So here in 3, 2, 1, thank you, Reiki. I love the fact that I have a digital copy to go along with this, so I'm not just like looking down reading the whole time. I can actually look up and y'all can see me read. It's fun times. So let's talk about this cover. This cover's great. I love the sunset, like golden hour colors. I love the blues and the yellows. But the best part is that Shen Qiao has Yan Wushi on his back, like wrapped with his arms wrapped around him, as presumably he's just rescued him, like what we saw at the end of the donghua. Presumably that's the case. We'll see how that pans out. One thing I really like is the reverse that it is. Because we talked about this a few weeks ago. In the donghua, they had Shen Qiao carrying Yan Wushi back from the cave, right? After his chi deviation situation. But in the novel, it's not that case. Yan Wushi still carries Shen Qiao back, despite what he just went through. So seeing this, it feels like the perfect reverse of that moment from the last volume, which is, I'm all about some visual symbolism. I'm all about some like poetic justice in our writing. So this looks great. I'm excited. All right. So the table of contents, these are just the chapters as they go. I'm glad we have these links, so I could go to the links if I needed to. Again, this volume is fairly long. This volume's a little bit heftier than some of the other ones. Let's get into these pictures. I've not looked at them. All right, well, that's just the whole cover. Ooh. This one here, I am assuming that that is Yan Wushi, but like the little kebab that looks like a person, I'm like, what is this? Who is this? Also, they look a little bit more slender than Yan Wushi, so who be this? Guess we'll find out. All right. Now, Felicie is still our translator. They've done an amazing job translating. Mimo doing the illustrations. Love that. Ning doing the bonus illustration. And then I want to show you all, Reiki has done their homework. Reiki made sure that that table of contents was crossed out. It's not going to make sure I'm not going to see the chapter titles until we get to them. So that's really exciting. Yay. All right. Let's dive into this. Chapter 53, Meeting by Wrong Again. I wonder what this chapter will be about. Through the red hills I meander, around the sand dunes I wind. Frigid ice seeps into my flesh, the wind's chill throbs within my bones. Which is Song of the White Horse by Shen Qiao. By the time Shen Qiao re-entered Chang'an, his state of mind had changed. He entered the city alone. He was carrying a sword and dressed in Taoist garb, but with his sickly appearance, his poor eyesight, and how slowly he walked, he bore little resemblance to a martial artist from the Zhanghu. Instead, he looked more like a wandering Taoist priest who was only carrying a sword out of fear for the chaos of the times. Nothing about him seemed threatening in the least. Chang'an was bustling with officials, people streaming through the streets like rivers, just like it always been every time he visited. But this time it felt even livelier than before. It's interesting that he, looks sickly and, seems to be walking slowly and stuff, when last volume he left with such high spirits and you're like, oh, he's gonna go get him, and now he's entered the city and he just looks as frail as ever, which is interesting. With some asking around, he learned that most of the people were preparing to head to Tuyun's capital to attend the Coiling Dragon Assembly on the 9th of September, all because some busybody had spread news that a scroll of the Zhuyang strategy would appear this year, and that Tai's sword, a treasure that had been buried with the first emperor of Qin and later unearthed by the tyrant of Western Chu, would also be present. Okay, so they, in the donghua, announced that the Zhuyang strategy would be there, but I'm assuming that maybe in the novel it's just a random rumor, and because Kunye told Shen Qiao last volume that they were luring Yan Wushi there with a treasure of his mother's, but here some random person says the Zhuyang strategy volume is going to be there, and it's like, is it? And then this sword. Also, it's interesting that there are a lot of people invited to the Coiling Dragon Assembly, whereas the donghua made it seem like a trap where it was just the people trapping Yan Wushi and that was it. So yeah. Everyone already knew that Northern Zhou, Tiantai sect, and Zhangdu Mountain each held a volume of the Zhuyang strategy. They already had been claimed. Still, there were always more people trying to get their hands on them, though to this day no one had managed to plunder those volumes from the factions that safeguarded them. It was clear that such a feat must be enormously difficult, so much that even the average martial expert couldn't pull it off. The scroll at Tianti, for example, even if they tried to steal it, grandmasters like Yan Wushi and Ruyang Kehui might find themselves unable to leave unscathed. Never mind anyone with lesser skills. The 2 remaining volumes had been scattered to the wind, their whereabouts unknown. The Luye Guild had managed to obtain one and wanted to transport it south with some other cargo, but Yan Wushi ruined things along the way. That scroll had been destroyed, gone from the world forevermore. If a Zhuyang strategy scroll really did appear at the Coiling Assembly, it must be the last volume that remained adrift and unclaimed. Obtaining this scroll would be much simpler than hunting down the ones from Tiante sect or Jiandu Mountain, never mind taking on the martial artists within the inner palace of Northern Zhou. Everyone in the Jianghu would covet it. Wealth might prove most people's hearts, or move most people's hearts. But to those from the Jianghu, all the gold and silver in the world could not compare to the temptation of peerless martial prowess. Chief Funghe had once been able to freely roam the Jianghu because of his status as the strongest in the land, and all had to quail beneath his every breath. What awe-inspiring might! Wasn't that how a true man should be? As for the Taie sword, it had once been the priceless national treasure of Chu, and was later obtained by the Emperor of Qin. The sword had always been regarded as a symbol of benevolent rule, so although it was an outstanding blade in its own right, its significance went beyond that of a mere weapon. Legend said that those who held this sword would rule the world. It was equivalent in meaning to the Qin dynasty's famous heirloom seal of the realm, the fabled imperial seal from the Qin dynasty. So both southern Qin and northern Zhou were paying attention closely to this year's Coiling Dragon Assembly. They'd even sent men to monitor the situation. It's going to be hilarious if that turns out to be just a rumor and there's no sword there at all. Regardless of their objectives, one thing was certain. There were quite a few people on the same journey as Shen Qiao. There wasn't a vacancy to be found at any of the city's inns. Seeing this, Shen Qiao decided to hurry along his way and rest in a town outside the city instead. My dude, good plan. If you've ever gone to a concert or a festival or an anime convention, unless you get in early, stay outside of the town. Just drive in or find transportation in. Like, don't be upcharged out the wazoo. To his surprise, however, notable men from all over the land were everywhere. Not only did he see practitioners from the many major sects, but even the ordinary little-known sects had all sent dispatches. Some of them were here to watch the bustle and broaden their knowledge, while others wanted to see if they could profit off the commotion. As Shen Qiao walked onward and the curtain of night fell, even the small towns outside the Chang'an seemed to be packed full of travelers. He went to inn after inn, and each one told him that even the woodsheds were occupied, leaving him at a loss. With his poor eyesight, though he could make out some vague approximations by the light of day, the moment night arrived, he couldn't see a thing. This made camping in the wilderness difficult. How unexpected that the long journey from Mount Tai to Chang'an had gone so smoothly, and it was only once he reached a large city that Chang'an, that he was plagued with troubles. Apologies to the Taoist master, we're currently completely booked. We even have guests sleeping in the woodshed. We truly cannot make more room for your esteemed self. The inn's concierge wrung his hands, a pained smile on his face. Shen Qiao was just about to ask again when a sweet voice came beside him. This one already has reserved a main room. It's quite spacious enough. If the Taoist master doesn't mind, he can share a bed with me. The interior of the inn was jostling with people. Those who were close to him raised their heads to see a gorgeous beauty gazing flirtatiously at a sickly priest who were instantly displeased. Someone mockingly said, if the young maiden is feeling lonely, she should at least find a stronger man. Oh, honey, if only you knew. The priest looks like he'd be blown over by a stiff breeze. Are you sure he'll be able to manage? At these words, a smattering of laughter rose from beside them. Shen Qiao is truly the elder brother to Shilian. At those words, a smattering of laughter rose between them. The beauty smiled sweetly. But this one likes handsome priests like the Taoist master, and not perverted, rotten men. She had barely finished talking when the man who'd been mocking them cried out. He grabbed his head, too shocked to speak. Half his hair had suddenly gone missing. The beauty laughed. This one isn't in a good mood today. Having encountered an old friend, I'd rather not see any bloodshed. Oh, I'm sure she wouldn't. You lot should really try to behave yourselves. Otherwise, if my old friend ignores me for this, you'll be in big trouble. She doesn't want to kill anybody, but she's using Shen Qiao as the excuse not to do so. While this conversation was unfolding, Shen Qiao had already left the inn without looking back. He's like, nope. Who the hell are you? Shouted the man who lost half his hair, full of false bravado. But the beauty had no interest in bothering with them any longer. She vanished with a flash, leaving behind only a fragrant aroma where she'd once stood. This one is Little Peony. Is it not a lovely name? Her voice still lingered in their ears. Everyone looked at each other, appalled. Hey, Wan Sex Bai wrong. Why has that demoness come here? So she's got a reputation. Leaving the inn, Bai Rong saw that the man ahead of her had already become a silhouette in the distance. She gritted her teeth despite herself and chased after him with her qinggong. Shen Qiao, you stay right there, she yelled. Perhaps he'd heard her because the silhouette finally stopped moving. Shen Qiao turned around and sighed quietly. What advice do you have for me? I bet he's kind of miffed because she was there when the abbot died and everything. Bairong had grown up in HEADPHONE sect, where she had seen the deepest treacheries of the human heart, the vilest faces of human beings. She believed she'd turned her heart into stone a long time ago, that nothing could move her anymore. But at that moment, faced with Shen Qiao's grudging and reluctant expression, a strong burst of indignation surged through her heart. Taoist Master Shen is so callous in his relationships, she spat. The day you were hiding in Bailong Monastery, we searched for you on my master's orders. If I hadn't bought you time then, you wouldn't be standing here today. Is this how you repay others for their kindness? When Shen Qiao didn't respond, she couldn't help but give an icy laugh. Or does Taoist Master Shen blame me for the deaths of those two priests? Back then, one of our elders was right there, and Xiao Sei was even more hostile, ready to jump on any mistakes I made. Did you want me to implicate myself for two strangers I'd never met before? Shen Qiao shook his head. I indeed must thank you for what happened that day. But it's also true that Zhu Jiang and Chu Yi died, and this was an evil committed by HEADPHONE sect. All grudges have their sources, and debts their debtors. I'll have them repay it sooner or later. What has already happened cannot be undone. It's meaningless to mire ourselves in who was right or wrong. Bairong bit her lip and remained quiet for a moment. I heard you destroyed all your martial arts in the hope of taking my master down with you, she said, and that you were gravely injured by him and almost lost your life. Are you all right now? I'm well, said Shen Qiao. Thank you for your concern. Shizun has also suffered grievous injuries, said Bairong. He's afraid that Yan Wushi will take a chance to finish him off, so he's hidden himself somewhere to cultivate. No one knows where he is. Not even you? Bairong gave a wan smile. What? Did you think he really trusted me? Shen Qiao knew there was a good chance she was affecting this expression to win his sympathy, but he truly couldn't bring himself to castigate her. I know you want to take revenge on Shizun, said Bairong softly. However, even if I did know where he was, I couldn't let you go to your death like that. Right now, you're not his match at all. Shen Qiao nodded. Well, thank you for telling me. However, I have no plans to look for him at the moment. Then who are you looking for? Said Bairong. Are you going to attend the Coiling Dragon Assembly in Tuyuhun's royal capital? You wish to save Yan Wushi? She'd always been enormously intelligent. Naturally, she'd already guessed what Shen Qiao had come for. When Shen Qiao didn't answer, Bairong sighed. Shenlong, do you know what you're doing? True, Yan Wushi might have attained the pinnacle of martial arts. Few people in the world can take him on, but a joint assault from the five of the land's most powerful martial artists? Even if he were a god from Duluo's immortal realm, he would not have a chance of surviving. And remember what he did to you. How could you just put that behind you? Even a cat or dog would keep their distance from someone who hurt them over and over, wouldn't they? Do your feelings for him truly run that deep? Shen Qiao frowned. Am I only allowed to save him out of personal feelings? Then why must you risk your life for him if you don't feel anything? Pressed Bairong. No matter how strong you are, you can't win if it's one against five. It's not just you. Yan Wushi can't, my Shizun can't, and even if Chi Fengge were revived, he couldn't. The Coiling Dragon Assembly is on the 9th of September, but the ambush is on the 8th, and today is already the 5th. Even if you rush now, you won't make it in time. Shen Qiao was silent. When she saw this, even the unflagging smile on Bairong's face took on a touch of anger. Don't you get it? She begged. I don't want to see you throw away your life. Bairong had feelings for him. Shen Qiao wasn't made of wood. Naturally, he knew. Bairong was the type to care only for her own interests. She would never risk her life or betray her sex simply because she loved Shen Qiao. She wouldn't even disobey her master or elders for his sake. The most she'd do was extend Shen Qiao some slight conveniences, lift a finger or two, as long as it didn't hurt her interests. This much was already remarkable for her. But she didn't understand Shen Qiao, and Shen Qiao had no inclination to explain any further. Oh, he didn't want Bairong to misunderstand. It was best for her if he drew a clear line between them right here and now. I love that he's like, I ain't leading you on, but I'm not interested, girl. Thank you for your advice, but I still must go. He stared at Bairong. In the eyes of outsiders, HEADPHONE sect is ruthless and treacherous, consuming even the bones of those they destroy. But you take to it like a fish to water. So in the end, a demoness like me is only worth your disdain. Shen Qiao shook his head. You've misunderstood. All I mean is that I know you'd never be content to stay an ordinary disciple in HEADPHONE sect. I have no right to demand anything of you, but I hope you'll take good care of yourself and avoid becoming someone like Huo Zhijing or Song Jingjing. You're different from them. You're different from them. Bairong's eyes prickled at those simple words, but she showed no trace of it, smiling sweetly instead. Then you should come see me from time to time. Supervise me to make sure I don't end up like them. I'm sorry, was all Shen Qiao said, and he turned right around and left. Bairong stamped her foot. Shen Qiao! But with a rainbow stretches across the heavens, Shen Qiao was already like a distant swan, with nary a trace of dust left in his wake. In the blink of an eye, he was already dozens of yards away, the wide sleeves of his Taoist robe fluttering as he glided further and further, never looking back. I love that Shen Qiao's just like, girl, I'm not into women. We're going to talk about more in the discussion, but that's such a good scene. Oh my gosh, I love that scene. That's fantastic. Yes. The 8th of September. Fuchi, the royal capital of Tuyuhun. Throughout the year, the western region saw more wind-blown sands than rain, but this year had been somewhat unusual. There was a continuous drizzle since the beginning of autumn. Even the buildings of the royal capital, normally caked with dust year-round, now looked fresh beyond recognition. Also, it's autumn, so, 1,000 autumns. Oh. With the influence of the culture of Central Plains, the nobles and royals of Tuyuhun all spoke and wrote using Han characters, and even the Han style of dress was widely adopted. Furthermore, as the Coiling Dragon Assembly drew near, it brought many people from the Central Plains to the city. At first glance, it was almost like being back in Chang'an. Outside the city was a pavilion meant as shelter from the rain. It was called Yin Yang Pavilion. No one knew when it had been constructed, but with the mountains on the left and the waters on the right, and the pavilion directly in the middle, it was exactly like a boundary between the yin and the yang. Ooh, the pavilion was in the style of the Central Plains. Only in the corners of its eaves could one find a hint of a more exotic aesthetic. With the passing of so many years, even the words Yin Yang Pavilion had almost peeled off, revealing the wood's original texture and color beneath the fading black paint. Yan Wushi stood at the center of the pavilion, his hands clasped behind him. It was unclear how long he'd been standing there. That's interesting because the way that they describe it in the novel, it feels very different from the donghua. He gazed out of the pavilion, his posture languid and carefree. He seemed to be watching the rain, but also like he was waiting for someone. In the distance, a single man emerged from the wet trees and brush. The man wore a black monk's robe, and his head was completely smooth and bare. Though his face was extraordinarily handsome, faint lines showed at the corner of his eyes. With an umbrella in hand, he walked towards Yan Wushi at a sedate pace. Oh, I like the way he's described here. Nice. Amitabha, has sect leader Yan been well? He spoke so casually, as if he was having an everyday conversation, but his voice rang crisp and clear across the landscape, unwaning despite the distance. You haven't grown a single hair since we parted at Chuyun Temple. Yan Wushi said coolly, truly your days must be full of troubles and worries, a vexing and unhappy life. Is the contented life of an ordinary monk that difficult for you? Buddhist Master Zhu Ting forced a smile at Yan Wushi's cutting sarcasm. Sect leader Yan's words are as unforgiving as always. The one who invited me was Duan Wenyang, so why have you appeared instead? Unless the great and mighty former state preceptor of Zhou has abandoned himself to the point of colluding with the Gok Turks. Sect leader Yan's reappearance in the Zhangyu has stirred up a storm of violence and bloodshed, said Buddhist Master Zhu Ting. You've disturbed all peace. In this humble monk's opinion, you should find a place to direct your energies towards meditating on your martial arts, lest more murder and evil arises from your hands. Look, I get what you're saying, Abbot. You think Yan Wushi should direct his energy towards other activities. We all agree, too, but he's not there yet. Yan Wushi burst into a noisy laughter. I've always hated how you do nothing but spew Buddhist doctrines, you bald donkey. But today you've smartened up. You've dropped all nonsense and cut straight to the chase. Good! Buddhist Master Zhu Ting lowered his head in lashes. Buddha urges us towards kindness, to drop our cleavers and seek enlightenment. But for those who refuse to repent despite repeated teachings, he can also demonstrate the thunderous might of Vajrapani. What use is there in preaching the truths of Buddhism to someone like sect leader Yan? We can only subdue you with force and stop a killer by killing you ourselves. Let me guess the reason you agreed to ambush me together with Duan Wenyang, said Yan Wushi. Yu Wenyang refuses to elevate Buddhism, so you sent men to infiltrate the Gok Turks day after day. Eventually, even Taspar Kagan were converted to Buddhism, but the Gok Turks have the dispositions of wolves and tigers, fierce and ruthless. The influence of Buddhism remained limited, and your only option was to return your attention to Northern Zhou. Yu Wenyang is incredibly wary of Buddhism. Even if you destroyed Huan Yu's sect, he'd never re-elevate Buddhism. So your best bet was to kill me first, then kill Yu Wenyang, and then have the Crown Prince Yu Wenyun ascend, and finally, you'd pledge allegiance to him. Yu Wenyun is different from his father. He's very fond of Buddhism. The years you spent constantly appealing to him weren't in vain. The moment he comes to power, Buddhism will once again regain its former glory in Northern Zhou. Buddhist Master Zhuting invoked one of Buddha's names. Yu Wenyang revels in war and slaughter, he said. He exploits the people and squanders wealth. He's not an enlightened ruler in the slightest. His war on Qi this time has taxed the entire country even further. It's only a matter of time before the masses collapse beneath the strain. So you're saying that you believe the Crown Prince Yu Wenyun to be the true enlightened ruler instead? Said Yan Wushi, deeply amused. Buddhist Master Zhuting replied simply, the Crown Prince both deeply reveres and understands Buddhism. It is in his destiny to become a Buddha. A smile slowly spread across Yan Wushi's face. To think you could lie through your teeth when Yu Wenyun is like that. Amazing! You just want to kill me, right? Well then bring it on! Where's Duan Wenyang? Tell him to get over here! As his words fell, a bright laugh pierced through the air. How egotistical of sect leader Yan. Has he never thought that today might become the day that he dies? Chapter 54, Yan Wushi's death. What? Okay. Bald old donkey, sneered Yan Wushi. You've been praised as one of the world's best 3 martial artists, yet you have to rope in Duan Wenyang to kill me. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Buddhist Master Zhuting's expression remained indifferent. As long as sect leader Yan dies today, my reputation is of little importance. You're too superficial, sect leader Yan. Yan Wushi burst out laughing. If you had to go find a helper from the Gok Turks, why didn't you just summon Hulugu's ghost here instead? What can a sad little Duan Wenyang do to my venerable self? Sect leader Yan really shouldn't boast too much. Duan Wenyang warned him. Otherwise, if you end up losing your life here today, you'll be left with no face, even in the underworld. Speaking didn't hinder his attacks in the slightest. In the blink of an eye, the silhouettes of his whip were already blotting out the sky as they descended, sealing off all of Yan Wushi's escape routes from above. Duan Wenyang's first whip had long since been destroyed during his first fight against Li Qingyu and Shen Qiao. The one he held now was newly made, named Shishang Ronyang. No less time had been spent on the crafting of this whip than the first, and perhaps it was even more durable. With a slight flick of Duan Wenyang's wrist, its shape flowed and transformed, giving rise to thousands of mirages, enough to dazzle the eye and leave onlookers confounded. So, Shishang Ronhong means literally 30 yards of gentle red. Here the red refers to the secular world, just so you know. It was obvious. His strength had grown immensely since his duels with Li Qingyu and Shen Qiao at the Su residence. No matter who it was, as long as they weren't mediocre, no one was content to be ordinary. They would strive to continually improve themselves. This might be true for oneself, but it would hold true for one's enemies as well. Duan Wenyang's whip techniques were the uncanny and unpredictable type, and the saber techniques of the western regions had been woven in as well. These 2 sets of techniques combined into a raging sandstorm. The boundless and never-ending, engulfing its opponents from the front and suffocating them in despair until they lost all the will to fight. But his opponent was Yan Wushi. Yan Wushi was unarmed. However, his fingers became as a sword before the 2 great martial artists of this generation, and under the command of his true Qi, the petals and leaves fluttering around them transformed into thousands of razor-sharp knives, obliterating every single one of Duan Wenyang's attacks. Interesting he didn't bring the sword. He didn't bring the sword that he got. I find that fascinating. Buddhist Master Zhuting was a man of little expression. He appeared even godlier than the Buddha statues within the temples, devoid of joy or anger, and completely unmoved by the outside world. At this moment, even as he saw Duan Wenyang thwarted, his expression was neither surprise nor fury. Instead, he pushed his palms out evenly away from him. As his true chi condensed, those 10 fingers, already exceptionally pale, seemed to faintly glow with the brilliance of colored glaze. Zhu Ting's face, too, seemed to tint with the slight shimmer of moonlight, as beautiful as a jade carving. His Akala seals totaled 6. Just before, he'd struck with 3 of them, one after another. Yet they were ineffective on Yan Wushi. Now he was using the 4th and 5th gestures, immovable as a mountain, and plucking a flower, a tacit smile. The former was a defensive move in place of an attack. The latter focused on countering strengths with softness. Within his hands, the complicated, ever-changing strikes became extraordinarily beautiful and pleasing to the eye, enough to make one drop their guard unconsciously. When he sent out the immovable as a mountain seal, a buzzing whine sounded in everyone's ears, and their minds blanked momentarily. Even the whip in Duan Wenyang's hands unknowingly stilled for an instant. Yan Wushi, however, remained completely unaffected and even gave a cold laugh. Ignoring Zhu Ting's mudra, its pose like plucking a flower as it swept towards him from behind, he reached out for Duan Wenyang's whip as before. His hand passed through the thickly woven mesh of after images like it was nothing, and actually caught the whip barehanded. Then, with a yank and a twist, he turned around, redirecting the force and sending every ounce of Duan Wenyang's true chi towards Buddhist Master Zhu Ting. Zhu Ting pushed off the ground with a tap of his foot, and his body instantly drifted several yards back. Despite fighting 2 against 1, Yan Wushi didn't retreat and actually chased after him, and as they came face to face, their palms met. A strong force against a strong force. The true chi from 2 martial artist grandmasters came into the inevitable confrontation, with a devastating conclusion. A split second later came a roaring explosion, and a vortex swept up around the 2 combatants, one that hungered to swallow all of creation within it. Duan Wenyang only felt a powerful turbulence engulf him from the front, and he was forced to withdraw his whip and retreat 5 or 6 steps back. Only then did he escape its terrifying impact. But neither of the 2 people moved within a single step. The fallen leaves beneath their feet were pulled into the air by their true chi and left dancing in the wind. Zhu Ting gazed at Yan Wushi, expressionless, when suddenly a powerful truth swelled up in his heart. If he couldn't kill this man today, he'd probably never have the chance again. As a grandmaster, Zhu Ting naturally had a grandmaster's pride. If possible, he'd of course prefer a fair and honorable one-on-one duel with Yan Wushi, but upon him weighed a heavy duty, the renewal of Buddhism. And Yan Wushi was his greatest obstacle. Only with Yan Wushi gone could Buddhism return to its previous standing within Northern Zhou. He absolutely could not lose this battle. Yan Wushi suddenly smiled at him. It was an inexplicable and uncanny smile, and Zhu Ting couldn't help but furrow his brow. The next moment, instead of continuing to engage him, Yan Wushi turned right around and dove at Duan Wenyang. At this time, Duan Wenyang's Shizhong Ronyang was held high above him as he brought it down towards Yan Wushi's head. The whip's momentum was like a 1,000-ton weight, and suffused with Duan Wenyang's true chi, it became an arc of white light. He hadn't expected that Yan Wushi would suddenly drop Buddhist Master Zhu Ting and walk towards him instead. And he really did walk. His steps were as calm and unhurried as if he were taking an idle stroll. But within a few short steps, he'd already moved from the next to the Buddhist Master Zhu Ting to where Duan Wenyang stood. And then he reached out, grabbing the white arc directly. It was a bizarre movement. It looked slow, but he grasped the whip's body with precise accuracy. And just like that, Shizhong Ronyang was clutched within his hand, while the hand itself remained completely unharmed. Duan Wenyang's expression shifted. Before he could react, the other man's fingers clamped down, and the whip that Duan Wenyang had spent so much painstaking effort to create was crushed to fragments within his grip. Did your Shifu never teach you that all weapons will amount to nothing before a true expert? Oh my God! A savage smile hung at the corner of Yan Wushi's lips. As he spoke, his hand was already sliding down the crushed whip towards Duan Wenyang's arm. This is surprisingly sensual and insane. The hand that would have been able to grab a normal person. But Duan Wenyang was no ordinary man. He didn't waste any time mourning his whip. The moment it was destroyed, he'd already released it, and he struck at Yan Wushi's chest with his other hand. Oh my god. Well, shit, here's everybody coming in all at once. Oh my god, there's Juting. Here comes UI. There comes Duan Wenyang. Oh my god. Everybody all at once. Shit. Ah! At the same time, Buddhist Master Juting's attack had also arrived. His Akala seal was already approaching the center of Yan Wushi's back. He'd begun after Duan Wenyang, and yet somehow he was even faster. Yan Wushi didn't move his feet, but his body vanished into thin air right before Duan Wenyang. But Duan Wenyang knew this was only a misdirection. It was impossible for a person to disappear without a trace in such a short amount of time, so he didn't slow his attack in the slightest. Yet still, his palm actually missed. How could there be a Qinggong of such incredible speed? Duan Wenyang was in complete disbelief. On the other end, Yan Wushi and Juting's palms met a second time. The force behind this clash was even stronger. The trees nearby shuddered with the force of their true qi, cracks snaking up their trunks at a speed visible to the naked eye. This time, both Yan Wushi and Buddhist Master Juting fell back 3 steps. Is that man a monster? Was the thought that flashed through Duan Wenyang's mind as he witnessed Yan Wushi's skills firsthand. He'd always boasted himself as being supremely talented, that even Master Hulugu couldn't have been better than him at that same age. But after encountering the almost inhuman entity known as Yan Wushi, he'd been beset with continuous setbacks. Back then, when he'd heard of the wretched picture his Shidi Kunye had made as Yan Wushi chased him around, he'd even laughed at Kunye's incompetence. But looking at himself now, it seemed he wasn't faring much better. And he was even working together with a top-class grandmaster like Juting, one of the top 3 in the world, yet they couldn't kill one single Yan Wushi. One single Yan Wushi. The technique he just used was body to shadow, phase, and replace. This voice rang within Duan Wenyang's ears. The speaker had sent the sound directly to him so that only he could hear, but it wasn't an unfamiliar voice. When one achieves ultimate mastery over it, even a horizon-spanning distance will appear to be little more than a few feet. He may seem to be very close to you, but in reality, he never approached you at all. His focus has always been on that monk Juting over there. Don't let him confuse you. The voice had just finished when a sword suddenly materialized to the left of Yan Wushi. And together with that sword came a few sporadic notes from a zither. Purple sword glares fell like a shroud, their light flooding everywhere in perfect harmony with the zither. Using the zither's notes as a medium, the player tore right through the dense armor of true qi Yan Wushi had constructed, taking advantage of Yan Wushi's focus on Juting. This attack was sourced from the same branch of demonic arts as Yan Wushi's, and thanks to that commonality, it found a tiny crack within his defenses. The instant that crack was revealed, the piercing sword glares arrived, directly targeting Yan Wushi. The Fanglin scriptures have a flaw. The stronger one grows, the more devastating this flaw becomes. Yan Wushi has reached the 9th stage, and because of this flaw, he's unable to progress any further to achieve the highest echelon of true perfection. If we wish to kill him, now is the time. It was Guan Lingsong's voice, bright and clear, but his actual person was nowhere to be found. Perhaps he'd arrived a long while ago and remained in hiding this entire time, waiting for the right moment to maximize the confounding effect of his zither. Out of all present at the scene, the most qualified to remark on Yan Wushi's martial arts could only be another practitioner of the demonic discipline and the Feijing sect leader. Indeed, the purple sword glares surged forth with unstoppable momentum and pierced right through Yan Wushi's clothes. His back was instantly dyed with a bloom of crimson. Yan Wushi snorted a laugh. A bunch of trash! My venerable self has no interest playing with you lot anymore. With that he turned and sent a strike at UI's Juji Bukchi. Its sword glare wavered a little, but continued its rush towards him. The zither's melody transformed suddenly, escalating from sedate to fervently impassioned. Guan Lingsong yelled, "The flaw in his demonic core has appeared!" Even before he'd finished those words, someone appeared close by and sent a swift gust from his palm at Yan Wushi. Meanwhile, Juting's hands came together to form the last seal, his hands twisting and turning. This was the final form of his Akala seals, the crimson lotus of fiery retribution. The flames of retribution came forth in the shape of crimson lotuses, as vast as the sea or sky, boundless and unending. They surged like raging tides, blazing intensely, incinerating all the world's delusions. A small crack finally appeared in Yan Wushi's true chi, so dense and perfect in its construction. The flames of retribution licked inside, wave upon wave. They forced the crack to expand and then finally ripped it open completely, went straight for his demonic core and tore it out, roots and all. The next moment, 5 slender, pale fingers slammed hard into Yan Wushi's chest. A small trickle of blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. But with this, his expression too became vicious. His sleeve flapped towards Buddhist Master Zhu Ting, sending along a powerful blast of internal energy and forcing him to evade its edge. Buddhist Master Zhu Ting swept half a step back. That half a step was enough. Yan Wushi turned around and grabbed the blade, stabbed into his body in a barehanded grip, and then gave it a forceful twist. And just as he'd crushed Duan Wenyang's whip before, Junsi Buchi's blade actually shattered into pieces. Then he crooked his fingers and went straight for Yuai's face. The two of them exchanged dozens of blows in an instant, and right at that moment, Dao Yu Yanshan struck forth with another palm, slamming it right into an unguarded spot in the center of Yan Wushi's back. Success! Dao Yanshan hadn't dared to get his hopes up. And so when he was so delighted by this unexpected turn of events, he'd put all of his strength into that strike, and Yan Wushi had to take it straight on. It was impossible for him to endure unscathed. With these 2 strikes from Buddhist Master Zhu Ting and Dao Yanshan, the pressure of Duan Wenyang and Yui was greatly reduced. Though Guan Lingsan hadn't shown himself at all, the contribution of his zither music wasn't insignificant. He was the one who discovered the flaw left behind by Yan Wushi's chi deviation through his duel with Ruyan Kehui, and taking advantage of it, they struck right at the root. Noticing Buddhist Master Zhu Ting's lack of follow-up, instead he only stood at the side watching. Dao Yanshan also stayed his hand and asked, "Why did the great master stop?" Though Yan Wushi and I stand on opposing fields, there was no personal grudge between us. We had no choice but to conduct this ambush, but regardless, an opponent like him deserves to be respected. He doesn't deserve to die here, not like this. Dao Yanshan sneered internally. If you were truly virtuous, then why participate in the ambush? Exactly! I'd call out the hypocrisy, thank you. But he didn't express his feelings, only smiled. The great master is truly a man of noble character. As if he could see into his thoughts, Buddhist Master Zhu Ting said coolly, Guild leader Dou should know this. Even if Yan Wushi dies, the Zhuyang strategy scroll he destroyed will not return. Dao Yanshan gave a chuckle. Well, Yan Wushi alone has set the entire world astir. If he dies, everyone will be at peace, and Buddhism can flourish. I must congratulate you, great master. Look, get a room. As the 2 of them spoke, Yan Wushi was struck by another palm. He needed to leave, but with his weakness revealed, the zither's notes were now clouding his mind. Combined with the internal injuries he'd accumulated, caused by the 2 palm strikes from before and the way Yui and Duan Wenyang continued to press their attacks, his defensive true chi had finally collapsed completely. Then, 2 more blows struck him. Of course, Yui and Duan Wenyang weren't doing much better either. Yui's sword was broken and he'd taken 3 strikes to the chest. His face was ghastly pale as he stumbled back several steps and then finally fell to the ground. Duan Wenyang's whip had been destroyed and he was suffering from internal injuries. Several ribs were broken and he coughed up many mouthfuls of blood. And yet, under these circumstances, Yan Wushi still had the strength to escape, and his body became a blur of after-images. Both Dao Yanshan and Guan Lingsang's face twisted in alarm, but it was already too late for them to stop him. At that moment, Zhu Ting vanished from where he was standing. Pushing his Qinggong to the utmost, he blocked Yan Wushi directly. The power of his Akala seals forced Yan Wushi to take the attack head-on, and with this, he lost his chance to escape. However, this Zhu Ting fell back once more 5 steps, and his face instantly went bright red. Then he swiftly changed to a ghastly white and forced himself to swallow down the blood bubbling into his mouth. Yan Wushi burst into laughter. But then that laughter ceased abruptly, as he hacked up a huge mouthful of fresh blood. And Dao Yanshan flung himself at him, striking a palm right against the Bai Hui point on the crown of Yan Wushi's head. With this strike, Yan Wushi finally toppled to the ground, unmoving. Buddhist Master Zhu Ting furrowed his brows, but in the end said nothing. He watched as Yan Wushi's eyes slowly slid close, and then quietly chanted one of Buddha's names. Putting his hands down, he bowed in the fallen man's direction and then simply turned and left without a second glance. Yu Ai and Duan Wenyang were both seriously injured. Seeing Yan Wushi had no hope of surviving, they left one after the other to treat their wounds. Oh my god, everybody's just like, well, got the job done, he's dead, let's go. You ain't gonna stand to finish the job? Okay. Dao Yanshan crouched to examine the body carefully. After confirming there was no breath, he finally revealed a smile and turned to Guan Lingsong as he walked out holding his zither. Congratulations, sect leader Guang. The day you unify the three sects is just around the corner. Thank you for your kind words, guild leader Dao. Are you certain that Yan Wushi is dead? Of course. I shattered his skull with that blow. Plus, all his internal organs are ruptured and bleeding from those strikes earlier. His life has ended. There's no way he can survive. Oh, so this is all going to be on you, Dao. This is all going to be on you when he doesn't die. Okay. Okay, sure, Jan. All right, we believed him. The guild leader, we believed him. Guan Lingsong smiled. The demonic discipline has a technique called from the heavens above to the earth below, he said. Right before a practitioner's life is about to end, they destroy their body and enter a state of false death while preserving a small chance of survival for themselves. The only issue is that learning this technique is terribly painful, and normally it has limited usefulness. Hence, few people try to learn it. Is sect leader Guang worried that Yan Wushi has also learned this technique? Said Dao Yanshan. Since we've already gone this far, it's better if we take the time to thoroughly confirm things. There's no harm in being certain. Ooh, buddy! He walked towards Yan Wushi and reached for his wrist. A sheathed sword appeared, held lengthwise before him. The sword was plain to the point of being crude. There was nothing extraordinary about it, save for the 4 characters engraved next to the hilt. Shan Hei Tong Bei. Guan Lingsong's expression flickered. He didn't even know when the other party had arrived. He may have made enemies everywhere when he was alive, their numbers uncountable, but he was still a grandmaster of his generation, said this new arrival. The dead are to be revered above all. Isn't it rather inappropriate to be doing this to an opponent who deserves your respect? Dao Yanshan narrowed his eyes and ground out the newcomer's name syllable by syllable. Shen Qiao. Oh, yes! Okay, all right. Yes, please. Chapter 55, To Repay Evil with Virtue. Shen Qiao nodded at the two of them. Have you both been well? After his initial surprise, Guan Lingsong composed himself and scrutinized Shen Qiao carefully. I heard that Taoist Master Shen fought with Song Jingjing and gravely injured himself. I didn't expect you to recover so quickly. What wonderful news! No one else had been present at their fight, and having been seriously wounded by Shen Qiao, of course Song Jingjing wouldn't have gone around announcing what had happened. But Guan Lingsong was a member of the demonic sect, so naturally he could obtain news that others couldn't. Hearing this, Dao Yanshan was also secretly astonished, and he reevaluated Shen Qiao's strength. Shen Qiao shook his head. I can't say that I've fully recovered. Those words were completely true, but it was hard to believe him. Though martial arts placed heavy emphasis on arduous training, every sect and disciple had their own carefully guarded secrets. Furthermore, Shen Qiao was Chi Fengge's disciple. Who knew if Chi Fengge had passed down some sort of divine martial arts manual to him? Well, he did, kind of. Guan Lingsong smiled. When it comes to how sect leader Yan treated you, Taoist Master Shen, others might know little, but I do know some. I heard it was all thanks to sect leader Yan that your duel with Song Jingjing happened in the first place. That is correct, said Shen Qiao. He was cold and callous towards you, just like he was to everyone else. Yes. I'm sure you didn't cross such great distances just to retrieve his body. You must have come to rescue him. Unfortunately, you are a step too late. Shen Qiao answered each of his questions. Correct. Guan Lingsong finally showed a trace of surprise. Exactly what about Yan Wushi deserves you going this far? Is it really like the rumors say? That the two of you have another more private relationship? I'm not acting out of personal feelings, said Shen Qiao coolly. I'm saving Yan Wushi for the greater good. Do Yanshan began laughing, unable to hold back his expression of contemptuous amusement. This is the first time I've heard Yan Wushi's name in the same sentence as the words greater good. Are you saying that the moment Yan Wushi dies, the greater good will cease to exist? Yan Wushi isn't a good person, said Shen Qiao. But as he assists the Lord of Zhou, he can be considered one of his supporters. Each of you might have killed him for your own reasons, but in the end, isn't that at the core of it all? His support for you in Yang's northern Zhou conflicts with all of your interests, hence you must eliminate him. But I believe it conflicts with all of your interests. But I believe that the only one who can put an end to this chaos is you and Yang, and that is where we disagree. Dao Yanshan shook his head. Shen Qiao, you are one of the Han, yet you support one of the Xianbei? No wonder Zhandu Mountain judged you an unsuitable as sex leader. Shen Qiao gave a smile. I take it Guild Leader Dou has never found himself in a situation where countless other oppose your views. As long as I believe something is worth doing, why does it matter what others see or think? Anyone with true fondness for you, the friends and family who have your best interests at heart, will eventually understand where you're coming from. Since Yan Wushi is already dead, said Guanling-san, there's nothing for you to do here. How we wish to deal with his corpse shouldn't hinder you in any way, so why must you interfere? Shen Qiao frowned. Once someone dies, everything dies with them, just like a lamp flame being extinguished. No matter what, he was a grandmaster of his generation. As his acquaintance, I wish to retrieve his body for proper burial. I hope that the two of you will grant me this. Guan Lingsong shook his head. We put all our strength and effort into killing Yan Wushi, so naturally we wish to confirm that he is truly dead, with no chance of coming back. Let me cut off his head first. You can still take the body with you later. At least he's trying to be competent in all this, and if I say no, said Shen Qiao. Taoist Master Shen is indeed a handsome man, but unfortunately neither Guild Leader Duo or I are interested in men, he said, a smile remaining on his face. I'm afraid we won't show you any tender feelings. Sure, Jan. With a toss of his hand, the zither in his arms flipped over, and he drew a long sword with it from the other hand. In a flash, the blade's point was already before Shen Qiao's face. Shen Qiao drifted back and drew Shanhei Tongbei. Two streams of sword chi chased and clashed in an unavoidable confrontation. At once a white ray pierced like the sun, like the herald of a grand omen, sharp enough to slice right through the metal and as harsh as snow and frost. It was only the beginning of autumn, yet Dou Yanshan suddenly felt the slam of cutting wind and freezing rain against his face, and he shivered internally, taking an unconscious step back. He realized how shameful his actions were, but soon he felt another burst of intense alarm. When his former sect leader, Zhandu Mountain, became your opponent, he wouldn't be the weak pushover kind of opponent. In fact, it wasn't only Dao Yanshan who was shocked. Within Guan Lingsan's heart, too, a tempestuous storm had long been brewing. He'd met Shen Qiao only a few times. Strictly speaking, only twice. The first time was when Shen Qiao had exhausted his strength in repelling Bai Rong, so he'd been completely powerless by the time that Guan Lingsan had appeared. Furthermore, he'd been blind, so it was obvious how severe his injuries were, on the brink of being irreparable. But now he saw him again. Though Shen Qiao still looked feeble as before, the moment he drew his sword, his entire person transformed. Like a sickly tree that had suddenly begun glowing with new splendor, its withered branches returning to life. It was now oppressively dazzling, brilliant, and magnificent. No, at this moment, Shen Qiao himself was a sharp sword. The sword intent undulated like shimmering ripples. It appeared soft, but it was endless and everywhere, omnipresent. Not only did it shatter Guan Lingsan's sword glare, it weaved itself into a dense net, enveloping both Guan Lingsan and Shen Qiao within. If you can conquer the hardest of all things in the world with the softest, then nothing in the world will be your match. Man and sword finally became one and the same. Never again would any flaws be found. Was this the true power of Zhandu Mountain's sect leader? Of Qi Fengge's disciple? Guan Lingsan didn't often wield a sword. He was used to his zither, but his skills with the sword was still effortlessly superior to most. However, at this moment he faced with Shen Qiao's airtight defenses and offense. A sense of helplessness suddenly welled up within him. He didn't even know where to begin striking. He was willing to make a bet. Forget about him. Even if a true sword master were here, they would feel exactly the same as he did. Guan Lingsong decisively abandoned his sword for his zither. And taking advantage of the brief time he'd bought by retreating from the sword net, he crooked his fingers and grabbed behind his back. In the blink of an eye, the zither he'd been carrying on his back appeared within his hands. Its clanging notes surged towards Shen Qiao with the force of a thundering storm. Do Yanshan seemed to have noticed his impatience, for he no longer stood on the sidelines watching. Instead, he leapt into the air and aimed to strike at Shen Qiao. Shen Qiao was not Yan Wushi after all. There was no need to tirelessly strive for his death. Do Yanshan's palm strike was only intended to overwhelm Shen Qiao, to fluster and confuse him, and in doing so force a loss. Now, say that's your first mistake. But to his surprise, he found that the harsh blast from his palm came within 3 feet of Shen Qiao, and it was completely swallowed by his sword glare. It was like tossing a pebble into the ocean. When compared to the waves that were already raging, the ripples from the pebble were smaller than small, practically negligible. Instead, it was a sword glare that surged, expanding until it was about to reach Dao Yanshan's nose. Both his and Guan Lingsan's martial arts were good enough to rank within the top 10. Even without using their full strength, the two of them working together were already more than enough to murder any regular man. However, Shen Qiao had been contending with them for a while, yet showed no signs of falling behind. It was clear just how terrifying and unfathomable his strength was. With his reappearance in the Zhonghu this time, he was truly someone you could not afford to offend. If they continued the fight, a grudge was sure to form. The Liu Guild's business enterprises encompassed the entire land, and they believed the amiability was the key to prosperity. Yanshan had participated in the ambush on Yan Wushi this time because there were others spearheading the assault, and all he had to do was follow their lead. But Shen Qiao was different. Since there was no need to kill him, a martial art expert like him could naturally give the Liu Guild countless headaches in the future. Dao Yanshan weighed the pros and cons, and then decisively chose to give up. Yan Wushi was almost certainly dead, and even if Buddhist Masters Yuting and Duan Wenyang had left, Dao Yanshan had only participated to exact revenge on Yan Wushi for destroying the Zhuyang strategy scroll. So giving his all here would mean heavy losses with little gain. Having deliberated all of this, he gave a bright laugh and then resolutely retreated. Fighting 2-on-1 is a bit dishonest of us, so I won't interfere with sect leader Guang's entertainment any longer. I'll be taking my leave first, so we'll meet some other day. Guan Lingsan had no right to denigrate Dao Yanshan's dishonesty. The 5 of them didn't have much of a relationship in the first place, and on top of that, they each held their own positions and interests. They could only gather together because of the shared goal of killing Yan Wushi. Now that Yan Wushi was dead and their goal was achieved, their temporary cooperation had also come to an end. But since everyone else was already gone, why was he still here fighting so desperately against Shen Qiao when it was so strenuous and thankless? Guang Lingsan glanced to the side. Yan Wushi was still lying there, bleeding from all appenditures of his face, unconscious and insensible. There was probably less chance of him surviving than of Qi Fengge coming back to life. Thinking this, he too lost all interest in continuing with Shen Qiao. The zither's melody suddenly rose to a pitch. Shen Qiao's senses weren't blocked, and the momentum of his sword couldn't help but slow a little. Guan Lingsan used this opportunity to extricate himself, sending a palm strike at Shen Qiao before gliding swiftly away. Taoist Master Shen is benevolent and kind. Yan Wushi may have had countless enemies, but having you as a friend is surely enough to let him rest in peace. What harm is there in assisting you in accomplishing your kind deeds? As soon as he heard those words, Shen Qiao also withdrew his sword and stepped back. My deep thanks to sect leader Guang. Guang Lingsan smiled and nodded at him and then turned and retreated. After today's battle, news of Yan Wushi's death would soon spread throughout the Zhonghu. Having lost their backbone, Huan Yu's sect would be unable to hold on for long with only Bian Yanmei and Yu Xingyan, and the balance of power between the 3 demonic sects would certainly change as well. Fa Jing's sect could take this chance to return to the Central Plains. There were still many things he had to do. Shen Qiao remained standing in place, watching Guan Lingsan walk into the distance. Only then did he release a long sigh. Holding his chest, he forced down the salty sweetness that had surged up his throat to back down. No matter how incredible the Zhuyang strategy's true chi was, Shen Qiao hadn't been practicing it for long. It was already unbelievably fortunate that he'd been able to recover more than half his former martial prowess. Then he'd try to fight 1 against 2, and both of his opponents were martial experts who ranked within the top 10. He'd already pushed his spent strength to the limit. A little more than he'd given it away to, a little bit more and he'd given it away to Guanglingsan. Luckily, neither Guanglingsan nor Dou Yanshan had any interest in continuing the fight, and Shen Qiao's preemptive attack had dominated them so much that they believed his strength unfathomable. Shen Qiao gave a bitter smile. After circulating his true chi for a long moment, his situation finally, slowly stabilized. He walked over to Yan Wushi and bent at the waist, reaching for his wrist. His hand was cold and lifeless to the touch, without even a whisper of a pulse. The pain and dismay he had felt at Yan Wushi tossing him to Song Jingjing was still vivid in his mind. Carrying the blood debts of the abbot and Chuyi's lives, Shen Qiao had used all his strength to crawl inch by inch out of the netherworld. Trapped in a field of death, he'd fought his way to survival, like a phoenix passing into nirvana. When he'd heard of the great danger this man was in, he finally came to the decision to discard all personal feelings between them and rushed here to his rescue. Yet in the end, he'd still been a step too late. Shen Qiao gave a sigh and whispered, "Very well. Take care of yourself on the way to the netherworld." No sooner had the words left his lips when the wrist he'd been loosely holding suddenly shifted, the moment almost imperceptible. Shen Qiao froze for a moment. Before he realized what was going on, something grabbed his wrist. Well, maybe this was a sign that Guanglingsan was right. I can't believe the chapter is ending there, but they probably really should have double checked on that. We're off to a good start. Yeah! Oh, volume 3! You are starting us off on a good foot. I was actually surprised. I did not know, like, on paper, chapters 53 through 55, like, and maybe it's because I'm terrible at math. They don't look like a lot, but then you get into it, and I was like, oh, we actually had quite a bit of reading. That's actually good for this week. All right, cool. I was afraid it was going to be like 20 minutes of reading, and I'd be like, and we're done. And I was going to feel like I wanted to read more, which I automatically do, because ending the chapter set with Yan Wushi being like, yoink, like, I'm not dead yet, is a way to end it, but if it makes you feel better, the audio drama does not end with that either. So I want to talk about a couple things before we begin. I did not get the chance to talk about a couple comments that had came up from the last few chapter sets. So I want to touch base on those and then talk with you all, because I just got done listening to episode 13 of the audio drama, which we're getting close to the end of season 1. There's only season 2 of the audio drama, but we're getting close to the end of season 1, which is exciting. So with that being said, I want to talk a little bit about the audio drama and then some comments, and then we'll dive into this chapter set. But the audio drama picks up right from where Kunye shows up with the battle of him and Shen Qiao and finishes out the rest of volume 2. Honestly, over half of episode 13 of the audio drama is just volume 2. It's just ending volume 2. And then the audio drama for episode 13 actually ends right as everyone shows up at the Coiling Dragon Assembly the day prior to ambush Yan Wushi. So it just ends up being like, we end off this audio drama episode right as the fight's about to start. So it's going to pick back up with what we get next week. So that's good to know. Interestingly enough, the main thing, everything is pretty much the same from what we got out of the novel, but they do add a scene where it's like right after Shen Qiao collapses, after he faces Kunye, there's a scene included where Yan Wushi is traveling with Bian Yanmei, and Yan Wushi tells him if he doesn't have a use for the Taihua sword, then give it to Yu Xingyan. So 2 things there. One, that explains why we don't see the sword in the novel chapters with Yan Wushi. He's gave it to Bian Yanmei, I'm assuming to protect himself in case if something goes wrong. I mean, in case if something goes wrong, we're going to talk about that here in a second. And then if he doesn't want it, to give it to Yu Xingyan. The second thing is, it proves that Yan Wushi really didn't care about the sword. It was just to take it away from Song Jingjing, because he's like, that bastard doesn't need that sword. So there you go. There you go. So Bian Yanmei, I love him, and he is trying his hardest to convince Yan Wushi not to go to the assembly. But at first Yan Wushi's like, well, let him try to kill me. Let's see if they can do it. And Bian Yanmei's like, but you don't know, and there's 5 of them, and But then Yan Wushi makes a point in the audio drama of saying, like, he's like, look, I've trained for 10 years in seclusion. If I come out of my 10-year seclusion in cultivating and then I can't face off against these guys, then what was the point? He's like, I don't want to have any regrets, which that does add a layer to it more than just Yan Wushi being like, YOLO, I'm the best. It does add this kind of like pride to it where he's like, I've cultivated for a decade. If I can't, talk the talk and walk the walk, then what's the point? So I do like that they included that. Beyond Yanmei is still very worried for him, though. And Yan Wushi says, look, the winner takes all. And I instantly thought of, like, the SpongeBob song, the winner takes all. I was like, oh, man. He encourages Beyond Yanmei not to worry about him and says, you need to stay and look over the sect. Basically, it was giving me the vibes that Yan Wushi was like, look, I got to go do this. I know they're going to ambush me, but I would not be Yan Wushi if I didn't accept the challenge. And I don't want to have regrets. And I'm Yan Wushi. I'm that bitch. I gotta go do this. But I do love, there's something about the care in which he talks to Beyond Yanmei. Like, he gives Yu Xingyan a hard time because he's training him. But his first disciple, there's a care to his voice. He's like, you take my place. You take the sword if you want. You take all this. Like, there really is. It's kind of like, he would never admit that. Yan Wushi would not. But it's there. And I kind of like the fact that he's like, look, I am going with he's like, I think I'll be fine. I think I got this. But, just in case, here's the sword. Keep it with you just in case you need it. That's wild. That's wild. So the other thing that I wanted to note from the audio drama episode was that when Shen Qiao is describing Yan Wushi as being heartless, the way that he talks about it's not him complimenting him, but he is saying, like, he's not cunning or tricksy like a fox or a wolf. He's just the same to everyone. He's just an asshole to everyone. He's like, I feel like Shen Qiao respects more that Yan Wushi is just a heartless person to everybody than someone that's conniving or scheming. I think Shen Qiao respects that more. He's like, look, he's a bad person, but at least he's not trying to manipulate people. That's just how he is. So, and he does manipulate people, but y'all know what I mean. So Sunray, for chapters 45 through 47 over on YouTube, said, it occurred to me in that Chinese authors love power scaling, especially wuxia and zhanxia storytelling. It reminds me of a joke in the anime community, quote, would you rather have a power scaling son or a daughter who's a shipper? Chinese romance authors said, why not both? Honestly, I'd rather have a power scaling daughter and a shipping son, but whatever. But yeah, I like that Chinese authors, especially for donghua and danmai, or for danmai, are just like, yeah, we're power scaling and shipping, so deal. Why get on our level, basically. And then Chewy for chapters 45 through 47 talked about the author saying, Meng Jishi does an amazing job at keeping the readers grounded and invested not only in the main couple, but the state of the world around them. She makes it very clear there's a bigger picture here and not just the main couple getting together, which a lot of authors struggle with. No hate, but MXTX. Look, we will not stand for the MXTX slander on this channel, but I will say, I feel as if you have to go into Thousand Autumns knowing this is not a romance. This is a Chinese fantasy that has romantic elements. MXTX's stories are romances that have Chinese fantasy elements. So they are inverse of each other. So I think if you walk in knowing that about each one, which I did not, and once I got through volume 1 in the donghua, I was like, oh, okay. So we're varying the genres up a little bit. I think once you do that, it's apples and oranges, essentially. There's a whole world that exists, and people have their own stories, struggles, and beliefs that are not forgotten in favor of focusing solely on the main couple. Shen Qiao and Yan Wushi are their own person with their own set of morals and beliefs. When you put the two people together, you don't get a cohesive set. I feel like that's throwing shade at Heaven Official's blessing. They are not two puzzle pieces that fit together, nor are they fated, and that's what makes them so interesting. I do feel like that is probably the most compelling part about the two of them so far, and I would agree with Chewy, is that I do think that Yan Wushi and Shen Qiao feel like two very different people. And so it is compelling because you're like, okay, you can see the chemistry at work. You can see the romance forming, and then it's like a little piece of clay. You're like, okay, how's it going to get molded? How are we going to make the shape? How are we going to get there? So I do feel like it's I like the fact that they're not fated. Now, don't get me wrong. Heaven of Angel's Blessing is my jam, and I will defend it to the earth. Y'all can't handle the romance. But I do appreciate that this story is very different, because if I'm being honest, I would not want to watch the exact same story and the exact same plot lines and formulas for romance on my channel over and over again. That would get boring, and you all would get tired of me being bored. So I appreciate that Thousand Autumns is a very different story that is handling its two leads in a very different way. I appreciate that. So good. We love to see it. But anyway, those comments were amazing. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. I know the moderators are like, I'm just sitting there living like, can you check the comments, make sure they're good? I'm like an addict getting withdrawals. So we need to start talking about this chapter set. Chapters 53 through 55. There was so much to enjoy about this chapter set. It was like a very strong opening for volume 3 that I was like, yes, 100% all about it. Even starting with Shen Qiao meeting up with Bai Rong. I like the fact, now in the audio drama, they did say, you know, like, people are speculating all of these things, and Beyond Yanmei is like, do you really believe that your mom's trinket is there at the assembly? And Yan Wushi's like, no. So he knew from the start that wasn't the reason that he went. I like they explained that in the audio drama because we didn't get that in the novel. I do like the fact that there's been all these rumors flying of like the Ziyang strategy. We've made it apparent that there's only one volume that's floating around somewhere. Shen Qiao's had 2 volumes. Yan Wushi's had a volume. And then there's a volume that the Abbot is containing. So there's all that. The Abbot's volume we might have to get to eventually. And then there's the mystery volume. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I like the fact that Bai Rong, her conversation with Shen Qiao, I loved it. It was so good in this. Because one, I like that Shen Qiao, he doesn't hold a grudge. Not really. Shen Qiao doesn't hold a grudge unless you do something and you don't. Shen Qiao doesn't hold a grudge as long as you're punished for your crimes. Then he's like, okay, now we're good. But I feel that Shen Qiao, he, you know, Bai Rong shows up saying, you know, I made sure that you weren't found in that monastery. I know you were there. I made sure you weren't found. Why aren't you grateful to me? And Shen Qiao is just like, look, the fact remains, those 2 innocent people died, and you may not have been able to do anything about it, but that doesn't mean I'm not kind of mad about it. So I don't know what you want me to do. And then she makes the comment asking if he's like looking for Song Jijing to get revenge. And Shen Qiao's like, no. Shen Qiao's like, I ain't got time for that. I don't want to face that man. I want to stay as far away from that man as possible. And that's when she questions, you know, why the fudge are you going after Yan Wushi? I really do like that Shen Qiao sets a very clear boundary with her in this chapter set. And I love that because so often it feels as if, you know, the characters, especially when it's a character who you know is not going to end up with the main character, they feel kind of strung along. And you wish that they would just figure out that the main character doesn't like them. You're like, just figure it out and move forward. And I like that Shen Qiao realizes, he's like, oh, she likes me. She is in love with me. But he also realizes the other side of it as well. So this whole conversation is fantastic. She's like, you know, she says, if you're not looking after Song Jijing, who are you going after? She's like, are you really going after Yan Wushi? And I like that Shen Qiao's like, I don't want to have to explain myself, because she's like, she basically says the same thing that Shiwu did. She's like, he's done all these bad things to you. Why would you try to like save him? Like, do you really love him? Do you have feelings for him? And I like that Shen Qiao's like, am I only allowed to save him because of personal feelings? I like that Shen Qiao's like, look, can I not believe that he's a contributor to the greater good? Can I not believe that he's important to the health of the common people? Can I not do things not out of romance? I think that's such a really, that's a really strong message to bring up, because I feel in a lot of stories as shippers, because I'm a major shipper, I'm like a huge shipper, I feel like we get tied down in these characters are doing things because they're in love and they love that character and they're doing it because they feels for them. And it's fun to think that. It's fun to ship. But I like that Shen Qiao kind of takes the donghua formula and says, can I not also do it because of X, Y, and Z for practical reasons? He's like, I'm not saving Yan Wushi for the penis. He's like, I'm doing it for the preservation and not the penis. Can it not be for that? And I like that the author brings that up because I think those are important things that we should be talking about in the story. Like making Shen Qiao not just a pillow princess, making Shen Qiao not just the other half of a couple, making Shen Qiao an autonomous character that is doing things because of the world around him, like Chewie was noting in their comment, and not just because there are, you know, a soulmate to someone or tied by the red string of fate. I think that that's really cool. It's neat, and I like it. It's refreshing. I enjoy that. And so Bai Rong's like, well, if you don't feel anything, why are you risking your life for him? I feel like what she says there kind of ties to Shen Qiao's conversation about her. She's like, well, if you don't feel anything for him and you're not expecting a relationship out of it, then why bother? And Shen Qiao kind of talks about that in saying, he's like, I know that she loves me. He's like, I'm not an idiot. I'm not made of wood. I can see what's going on. But he's like, she only cares about her own interests. She wouldn't risk her life just because she loves Shen Qiao. She wouldn't disobey her master just because she loved him. She would do it because it, you know, she would only help him if it wouldn't hurt her interest and she could get something else out of it. So when she's questioning Shen Qiao, she's like, why would you save him if you're not getting any D out of it, why save him? And Shen Qiao's like, oh, you sweet summer child, Bai Rong. There's more to life than just the D. He's like, there's more to life than that. He's like, there's, you know, other people involved too. And it shows this kind of disparity between Bai Rong and Shen Qiao. Shen Qiao is being a man for the people. He's thinking about the overall picture, and he's thinking about how Yan Wushi is a part of that overall picture. And that's kind of a big distinction. He's not putting Yan Wushi as the forefront of his thoughts, being like, I have to save Yan Wushi because Yan Wushi's everything and I love him and da-da-da-da. He's like, no, Yan Wushi is the part of this puzzle here, and I need him to fit together in this puzzle to save everybody else, and he's part of this grand scheme. And I like that Shen Qiao is viewing him like that. He's not putting Yan Wushi on a pedestal. He's not worshiping Yan Wushi. He's not saving him because he's the apple of his eye. He's saving him because he thinks that he's a part of a larger connective tissue that is going to be sustaining everyone in their kingdom. And I think that's awesome. And Bai Rong she can't get that. She doesn't get it. And Shen Qiao's like, I'm going to draw this line right here and now to say, girl, I'm not interested in you. We're not going to be together. You're fine. He's like, I hope that you do better than the other people in your sect, but I'm not the one. And I'm glad he establishes that now. He's just like, look, I'm not the one. So he's like, I still have to go. And then the way he says here, he's like, you take to this sect so well and you naturally fit in and you make it your own. And Bai Rong interprets that at first as, oh, well, you don't want to be with me because I'm a demoness. And he's like, no, that's not it. You're misunderstanding. He's like, I just want you to take good care of yourself. He's like, I got other things to do. And I like that Shen Qiao basically is like, we're not compatible and this is not going to be a thing. And it's nothing against you, Bai Rong, but it's just what it is. And I love that he says, I hope you'll avoid becoming someone like Huo Zhijing or San Jingjing. You're different from them. And that you're different from them really hits home with Bai Rong. She's like, oh my God, no one's really told me that before. And I'm sure that everyone associates all of Heihuan's sect together as this demon entity and this big organization, and everyone kind of is viewed the same. So for Shen Qiao to say, you're better than those other guys, like, just don't forget that. And she's like, well, if you really want me to remember, you should hang around more. And he's like, okay. I like that he's like, sorry. He's like, I got things to do, but I love she stamps her foot and she's like, Shen Qiao. And so he manages to go away, leaving Bai Rong. I liked the way this part of the chapter ended because it leaves things open for him to see her again after he's saved Yan Wushi. But at the same time, like they're in a good place in terms of their relationship, but he's established a very clear boundary and made her know that, look, it's not you, it's me, and I got bigger fish to fry. Sorry. I love it. I love it. So he finds out that he needs to go to the royal capital a day before the assembly begins. I kind of love that. I love that we started out the chapter where everything was so bustling and everybody was coming around. And as someone who had seen the donghua, I was like, well, everyone's here to see this assembly. How are they going to ambush Yan Wushi? And then we find out they're doing it the day before. And I'm like, okay. And the pavilion, the way that it's described, the yin and yang pavilion, first of all, it being described as the yin and yang pavilion and having Shen Qiao and Yan Wushi there, and they are both literally yin and yang. They are opposites in every sense of the word. Is on the nose in a good way. I like it. But it's the way it's described feels a lot different than the donghua. In comparison to the donghua, I really love this setup of the ambush way more than I did the donghua, which I get in the donghua. They were trying to rush to get it all like wrapped up before the end of the season. But the way that it slowly builds up in this chapter and in chapter 54 is really good. And the introduction of Zhu Ting, where he comes in the black robe and he's described with like being handsome with the faint like crow's feet and the umbrella, just walking towards Yan Wushi. I was like, that was okay. I loved that. I thought that was done really, really well. But yeah, just like in the donghua, Yan Wushi is surrounded on all sides by everybody. And we get a little bit more understanding. I mean, in the donghua, it's very clear that Zhu Ting and Yan Wushi do not get along. And we get the idea that, Yan Wushi basically took Zhu Ting's job as preceptor. And so he's not happy about that. But then we get a little bit more politics where Zhu Ting wants to reintroduce Buddhism back into Zhou. And he believes that with the current ruler, he's like, that's not going to get done. But the current ruler's son was kind of fond of Zhu Ting back when he was preceptor. And he has kind of a good footing with him. And so Zhu Ting's like, if we can get Yu and Yang out of there and get his son on the throne, I can kind of, influence him a little bit, get him to accept Buddhism back into the country, and I could start getting some more influence again. And Yan Wushi kind of sneers at that, and he's like, gross. Like, he just is not. It makes me also think, too, that Yan Wushi, even though Yan Wushi is an opportunist and he's doing things for his own gain, he's very open to calling out the hypocrisy of others. And I kind of love that about him. But yeah, so Zhu Ting and him, he's like, I guess we're just going to have to attack you and kill you. And that's when chapter 54 starts. I love that Yan Wushi calls him a bald old donkey. Especially after the novel describes him as actually pretty handsome. And I'm like, you're one to talk, sir. You have a big streak of white through your hair. But yeah, so the battle begins. And we find out that Duan Wenyang has gotten stronger. His dang new whip that is called Shizhong Ronhong. My mouth is not made for such alliteration. But yeah, I really liked that we got, Shen Qiao hasn't been the only one leveling up behind the scenes. Duan has been as well. So first it's Zhu Ting versus Yan Wushi. Then Duan shows up. Then UI shows up. Oddly enough, UI does not hardly get featured in this chapter set at all. It's mainly Zhu Ting, Guang, Do, and then Duan's in there till his whip breaks, and then he's just kind of like relegated, just like, I'm battling. UI is barely in this fight, which I was surprised about because the donghua makes him such the Gaston to Yan Wushi's beast in there that I was really expecting him to like say something. He didn't even say anything in this fight at all. He said no words. He fought, but he didn't say a dang thing, and I was really expecting him to. I think if Shen Qiao had been there, he would have said something, but it's probably good that Shen Qiao did not see UI and UI did not see him, because that could have led to something else. That could have been more annoying than anything, because I don't think UI would have been able to do anything at that moment, because he gets pretty hurt in this. But yeah, I was surprised. It was mainly like a big thing against Zhu Ting, and I would honestly say that Guang and Do and Zhu Ting are the ones that have the most beef with Yan Wushi in this, and Duan and UI just kind of like come in to fight him, and then the aftermath is crazy. Like, I do love the way that they describe the battle, and I like the way it was all broken down. And Yan Wushi held his own. He broke the whip. He smashed UI's sword. I was like, dang. And then it bugs me so much that Yan Shan got the bow on his head. I'm like, oh, I'm not a fan of Do Yan Shan. I think the donghua has turned me off his character because he looks like a bro with like the facial hair and everything. I was just like, no, I'm so mad that he like sneaks in. And he's so kind of arrogant where he's like, oh, he couldn't have survived a blow like that to his head from me. And I'm like, sure, Jan, you're really... Guan Lingsan had the right idea. Guan was like, let's chop off his head just to be safe. He had the idea. I was honestly amazed at how quickly everyone dispersed. It was like, it felt like The Godfather Part 2, where like the gang comes by the car and they just shoot the car and the guy and then they just peel away. It felt like that. Like they all showed up. They all fought against Yan Wushi. Guan Linsong is actually the one that oh, okay, in this picture, I'm looking at the photo from the novel, which I'll show you all the first couple chapters here. It's like the one photo in this. In this shot here, you can see the abbot. You can see Duan because you can see his whip there. You can see UI. Doe is not even pictured. We're not even going to picture him. He wasn't worthy of getting drawn. And then you can see Guan because that's the zither. I was like, what is that? I thought his hand was like over a railing. No, it's the zither. So the four of them are all facing off against him. Duan does not get drawn because we don't like him. But yeah, poor Yan Wushi. I'll put my bookmark there. Poor Yan Wushi. As I say that, you know what? He definitely gets his comeuppance. That's for sure. But yeah, they all come. I mean, it's 5-on-1. Even somebody as strong as Yan Wushi, what do you expect, right? So I do think that if Guan hadn't been there, they would not have succeeded because he was the one that was able to tell what Yan Wushi's weakness was, to exploit it, to use the zither as well as a sword. Like, he's pretty versatile in this. And to get him to the point where Zhu Ting could make an impact. I mean, UI made an impact, Duan made an impact, but Zhu Ting and Guan Lingsong were doing a lot of the work in this battle, which is probably why he doesn't like them at all. And I honestly think that makes sense because Zhu Ting and Guang have the most investment in getting rid of Yan Wushi. Like UI just wants to get rid of him. He's just involved because of Shen Qiao. Otherwise, he wouldn't care. But because Shen Qiao is like with him, he like feels an involvement. Duan is involved because of what went down with Shen Qiao and Kunye, and also because, you know, he sees Yan Wushi as a threat to their plans with Gok Turks. So that makes sense. But it's not like, but Duan doesn't really know Yan Wushi on a personal level. So he's just doing it out of like, oh, we gotta get rid of this guy for the greater good. Greater good is brought up a lot in this. Do just doesn't like Yan Wushi because he destroyed the Zhuyang strategy that was supposed to be his. So there's that, but that's a pretty shallow reason in the grand scheme of things. But Zhu Ting and Guang has a huge investment because with Yan Wushi gone, he's like, we can absorb the Huan Yu sect and we can, you know, unite the demon sects without Yan Wushi. He's like, so it's pretty important that we get rid of him. So his stake in this is huge. And then Zhu Ting has a huge stake in it because he wants Yan Wushi's job and he wants to really get Buddhism back into Zhou. So it's kind of cool to see in this battle, the people that are prioritized as fighting Yan Wushi are the ones, it's based on their stake in the fight. It's actually funny to me that the Liuhe Guild leader is the one that sticks around till the very end. Well, Guang does, but almost to the very end. More than the abbot, but we'll talk about that here in a hot second. So yeah, Yan Wushi is in fact a monster. He withstands a lot, but in the end, they managed to break through and kill him, so to speak. I do love the body to shadow phase and replace. I love the way they describe that move that Yan Wushi does, where you think he's coming at you, but he's already moved far away. So freaking cool. And then, yeah, Guang talks about the flaw. I love when Yan Wushi calls them all a bunch of trash. Love it. As he's shattering UI's sword, calling him a bunch of trash. It's great. Although, Zhu Ting's like Akala Seals and the Crimson Lotus of Fiery Retribution, that was described really cool. That move was pretty solid. I thought that was really intriguing. And then that's what does it. It gets him weak enough where Do can strike him, and then he collapses. So, here's the thing. When all is said and done, towards the end of chapter 54, Yan Wushi's on the ground. They think he's dead. He doesn't have a pulse. He's not breathing. And they're like, okay, he's dead. Zhu Ting is the first to walk away. He's like, okay, did my job, bye. And I do love, the one thing about Do's character that I liked in this chapter set was he called out the abbot's hypocrisy. He's like, because he's like, where are you going? He's like, we just had to stop him. The battle is over. I'm not gonna, like, we're gonna be respectful to this Grandmaster and I'm gonna take my leave. And I like that Do's like, You joined us in ambushing him and doing a dirty, underhanded thing, and now you want to leave, like, you don't want to be a part of something dirty and underhanded. He's like, then you shouldn't have been part of the ambush to begin with. I love that Do calls him out on the hypocrisy. I thought that was really, really good. And then UI and Duan, they were the two that I was the most surprised about. Like, with the Abbott's character, I understand why he left. I'm like, I get that. With Duan and UI, they just peace out. They're both severely injured. Their weapons are broken, and they're just like, bye. Like, they had the least stake in this battle to begin with. So once they saw that he was dead, they're like, okay, bye, see ya. And they just left. I was amazed that they just left without a word. It was crazy. So that leaves Guang and Do, and that leaves them left over. And then Guang says, okay, he's like, everybody, he's like, we have a technique called from the heavens above to the earth below. Right before the practitioner's life is about to end, they destroy their body and enter a state of false death while preserving a small chance of survival for themselves. The only issue is learning the technique is terribly painful, and normally it has limited usefulness. Hence, few people try to learn it. I mean, I could see why you wouldn't want to use it because, like, you have to hurt yourself and put yourself into near death to escape death. Seems like it'd be a little bit counterintuitive, maybe. So Guang's like, I don't know if he actually used the technique or not. And Do is like, well, do you think he did? And he's like, Guang had the right idea. He was like, let's check, let's make sure. And then Shen Qiao showed up and he was like, no. Which Shen Qiao's like, we need to respect his body. And Guang's like, oh, I'll respect it after I chop his head off. But then we get chapter 55, to repay evil with virtue. I love that chapter title because, again, I love that Shen Qiao is like, I'm going to remain a virtuous person. He is literally the definition of the Christian principle of turn the other cheek. You get smacked, you turn the other cheek and say, here's the other one. Go at it. Bless his heart. Bless his heart. I love Shen Qiao. He's amazing. But he's like, well, and I like that he's honest throughout this entire chapter to the point where Guang and Do don't think he's being honest. Like when he shows up and Guang's like, oh, well, you fought against Song Jijing and you're still standing. Like, that's impressive. I heard you recovered. And Shen Qiao's being honest. He's like, oh, I can't say I've fully recovered. He's so modest and so, like, underrating himself that Guang thinks he's lying. Guang and Do both believe that he's lying and he's actually okay and he's underplaying it. But the reality is, no, he's not underplaying it at all. They just believe that he is. And so then he's like, well, you know, Yan Wushi, he did all these horrible things to you. And Shen Qiao is like, yes. Shen Qiao is tired of having to explain himself to everyone. He's like, yes. And he's like, you know, he was really cold to you. Yes. He's like, you know, you're a bit too late. He's already dead. Yes. He's like, here I am. And he's like, well, why are you here? And he's like, I'm not acting out of personal feelings. The way Shen Qiao says that is like, if I have to explain it one more time, I'm going to explode. He says, I'm saving Yan Wushi for the greater good. And I love that Do Yanshan, I like giving him a lot of grief. Like, I love making fun of Do Yanshan. I actually don't mind his character, but I like giving him a lot of grief. And so he's like, well, greater good? Yan Wushi? Who ever heard of that? And Shen Qiao is like, I'm tired of having to explain myself. He's like, he's not a good person, but he helps the Lord of Zhou, so he's one of his supporters. And what's interesting here is that the abbot and Guang and the others, they describe the Emperor of Zhou as not a nice person. Like the abbot's biased for his own reasons. The abbot is biased because he wants it to be said that the Emperor of Zhou is not good because he wants his son to reign. So of course he would say that the emperor currently is like not a good emperor because he wants to stoke those fires, right? But Shen Qiao is like, you know, I think that this is the best shot we've got. He's like, and I believe the only one who can put it into the chaos is you and Yang, and this is where we disagree. Like, Shen Qiao is ready to have a healthy debate with you about why he is right. I love that Shen Qiao his sense of justice is very cemented, and he's like, this is what I believe, this is what I'm supporting, these are the reasons why. But at the same time, he also, like, you could argue his point. What I like about it is there is a little bit of subjectivity to it. Like, we get where Shen Qiao is coming from. We get his point of view. We get why he thinks the way that he does. But is he righteous and objectively correct? I mean, no. You could agree with him and think that that's the better option, but then you also have characters that present their arguments and you kind of get where they're coming from. So it's a really realistic look at a main character choosing a viewpoint and a goal to follow, but that goal isn't treated as the universal truth. It's just Shen Qiao's truth, and this is what he's following, and he's being objectively, like, loyal to that agenda that he has. And I like that. I think that's really smart. It's great. And then Do is like, but you're one of the Han, but you're sporting the Janbei. Like, no wonder Jean Du Mountain judged you unsuitable as a leader. And Shen Qiao is like, well, I'm being open-minded. Shen Qiao's like, I'm being open-minded, so maybe you should be too, Do. And then Guan's like, it doesn't matter. Yan Wushi's already dead. And he's like, well, I just want to retrieve his body for a proper burial, and I would like if you all could be respectful to that. And I like that Guang Lingsan is like, no. He's like, I will not be respectful to this man. And then they have a fight, right? And then they fight, and Shen Qiao proves that he can be a polite, virtuous man that has a sting to his sword. So they battle, and eventually both Guang and Do Yanshan both realize they're like, we're fighting a losing battle. Shen Qiao is going to end this in a stalemate. We can't overpower him. It's not worth the trouble. I like that each of them have different thoughts. Like, Do is like, I don't want to lose face fighting off against this former sect leader when I'm getting nothing out of it. And Do is like, Yan Wushi's dead, so I'm out. And then Guang Lingsan is like, yeah, I don't see the point in fighting anymore. He's like, I don't want to fight a losing battle either. And if he turns out to be alive, have fun with that. And then he ends up going. But I think he believes that, he says there was probably less of a chance of Yan Wushi surviving than of Qi Fengge coming back to life. Well, shouldn't have placed those bets. Not at all. Shouldn't have been placing them bets. And then I like how Shen Qiao reaches down to see if he has a pulse. And I like that he says here, I do appreciate them adding, the pain and dismay he had felt at Yan Wushi tossing him to Song Jijing was still vivid in his mind. Carrying the blood debts of the abbot and Chu Yi's lives, Shen Qiao had used all his strength to crawl inch by inch out of the netherworld. Trapped in a field of death, he had fought his way to survival like a phoenix passing into nirvana. When he'd heard of the great danger this man was in, he finally came to a decision to discard personal feelings between them and rushed here to his rescue. And in the end, he had been a step too late. I love that because everyone is assuming that Shen Qiao is going to rescue Yan Wushi because he has feelings for him and because he loves him. The reality is that Shen Qiao is rescuing him because he let go of the personal feelings of letting him die. Like, it's the opposite. No one believes him, but the opposite is what it is. Shen Qiao wanted him to suffer and die for everything he'd done to him, and because of his actions and how it affected the abbot and Chu Yi, he's like, that man deserves to just die and rot, and I'm going to have nothing to do with it. But then, because of all the work he'd done to escape from death, it's kind of like, I guess the analogy I would use for it is like someone that had a terminal illness that fought that terminal illness and went into remission and was slowly gaining strength back. They have this revelation of, why am I holding these grudges? Why am I living this life in doubt and anger and sadness? Just let it all go. Rise like this phoenix passing into nirvana. And he's like, no regrets. I'm not going to worry about old grudges. I'm just going to move forward and enjoy my life. And that's kind of what Shen Qiao does. He rises up from this circumstance and he's like, I don't like Yan Wushi, and I wish the worst for him, but I'm going to let all that go because for the benefit of everyone else but myself, I need to save him. And that selflessness, I know Yan Wushi will make fun of him for it. He will, but it's kind of crazy. I had the thought when Yan Wushi was you know, when Guang Lingsong made the comment that you enter this death-like state by breaking down your body completely, I wondered, and we will find this out maybe next week, maybe in volumes to come, I wondered if this was going to be a parallel moment where Yan Wushi, because he's broken himself down, has he broke down his core, and now maybe his demonic core is going to get broken down and he'll be able to start over again, like what Shen Qiao did, start over again and rebuild himself, only using the Zhuyong strategy instead of the Fenglin scriptures. That would be interesting if they both had to rebuild themselves from the ground up. That would be cool. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but that would be interesting. Indeed. I know Shen Qiao wants to prove Yan Wushi wrong and to look him in the face and be like, aren't you disappointed that I'm not evil? I feel for Shen Qiao because, one, Yan Wushi from the audio drama isn't surprised. And I don't think Yan Wushi is like, he's like, well, I've wanted you to do this all along. I don't think that Shen Qiao fully understands Yan Wushi, which, do any of us, you know, do any of us fully understand him? That's the crazy part. But anyway, so, oh my gosh, I can't believe they ended off the chapter set there. That's not fair. That's not fair at all. Anyway, I'm very excited to see what's going to happen next week now that Yan Wushi is seemingly not dead and where we go from there. But I will say this. I did love in the donghua that they had the big fight with Yan Wushi and he had the phoenix descending and it was the big giant phoenix fighting and all of that. I feel like that wasn't in the novel like this, but again, different adaptations, different parts. I'm curious to know which battle you liked better, the donghua one or the novel one. I kind of like the novel one quite a bit, but then there were some visuals in the donghua that were really nice, like with the phoenix. So I definitely like this ending here with Shen Qiao better than the donghua. So we're going to see what happens next week. But anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. Thank you all so much for reading along with me. And I will see you all next week with part 2 of volume 3 of Thousand Autumns. And I'll see you there. Bye.